At the beginning of the NCAA tournament, we were worried about the health of one National Player of the Year candidate, but now the shoe's on the other foot. Is Johni Broome going to be ready to go on Saturday?
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. It is Thursday. We are 2 short days away from the national semifinals. We're your host, Isaac Shade, and this is my guy, Andy Patton, sitting on the bottom row if you're watching on YouTube, because we got our guys, Zach Blackerby and Brandon Olson, the hosts of Locked On Auburn and Locked On Gators. Oh, baby, it's a left side of the bracket breakdown. These SEC foes are going at it. We're going to get to that in just a second because you're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making us your first listen or watch. Want to remind you, you can catch every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. Special shout out to all the everydayers joining us and, of course, our great Locked On College Basketball Discord family. This episode's brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I would never have such luck, but maybe you all would. All right, gang, here's how we're going to handle this left side of the bracket breakdown today. If you were with us on Wednesday's show, we did this with the right side with Parker Ainsworth and JJ Jackson, the great host of Locked On Cougs and Locked On Blue Devils. We just took it one team at a time. When this team has the ball, when the other team has the ball, what are we doing? And then we'll look X factors, predictions, and all of that great stuff. I can only imagine Zach is going to take the Gators to win, and Brandon will do the same with Locked On Auburn. I mean, that's clearly how this is going to go. All right, we got to start.
I almost left.
Number one overall seed, which things have gotten messed
almost
up.
Bashed
here.
all that glass behind him.
Yeah, I almost just
throwing it across the kitchen.
If that, for those not watching, Brandon just has shelves of alcohol behind him right now. In
gonna make a martini.
Are those decanters? I don't even know what you call them.
If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
All right, fair.
Oh my gosh!
So,
wow.
Look, why are we switching?
I hit a FanDuel parlay.
The number one overall seed is supposed to be in the top left corner on this video, and I don't know why anyone's trying to move it around. This is tomfoolery, and I'll not stand for it. All right, we got to start with Auburn. When they have the basketball, what's going to happen? But Zach, before we can even come close to hitting that, we got to get an update on Johni Broome. Let's timestamp it so we know where we're at. It's Wednesday, 12:58 p.m. Central Standard Time. And so, Zach, where are we at right now with Johni?
Yeah, Bruce Pearl's messaging on this has been pretty consistent, especially earlier in the week. Sounds like he was going to miss 2 practices for Auburn and then return back to action on Thursday. And so, you know, as this show drops throughout our channels and feeds on Thursday, I'm expecting Johni Broome to kind of get back into practicing with his teammates. Look, I'm not concerned about this. Like, whether Auburn or Florida wins on Saturday, I don't think Johni's health will be the reason why either team wins one way or the other. I think a lot of these practices at this point of the season are mental. They've played Florida before. They've got a game plan already in place. Offensively, Johni Broome knows the system better than anybody. And also, guys, just the fact of the matter that he came back in. He came back in after missing those 5+ minutes, was effective on the glass, and drains a 3. An incredible moment for Auburn basketball fans. The fact that he came back in is why I'm just not really that concerned about it.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, Zach. Obviously, him coming back onto the floor is a pretty good sign that things are going to go in his favor for this game. But you talked about Auburn having a strategy offensively kind of coming into this game, obviously having already played Florida this year. What do you kind of expect to see Auburn do? Is it kind of the same as what we've seen from Bruce Pearl's offense throughout the season? Are they going to do anything a little bit differently, knowing Florida has, you know, perhaps a little bit more size in the front court than some of the other teams they've played up to this point in the tournament? Kind of what are you expecting to see from them on that end of the floor?
You know, I don't think we've really seen Auburn deter from what they want to do offensively based on the size of their opponent. I mean, that was the big thing about Michigan. It's like, oh my goodness, they've got these 2 behemoths down low. What's Auburn going to do? And they still went to Johni Broome early. Michigan State, a little bit different story. They went to Johni Broome early, and it was just like they couldn't do anything to stop them. It was insane. It was incredible. It was. I'm expecting them to do the same thing early with Florida. The big question is like, okay, Johni Broome's going to get his, we assume. If he doesn't, Auburn's in trouble on Saturday.
No.
Who's the next guy? Is it Tahaad Pettiford, who's the only other player who had double digits against Michigan State, but he only had 10? I kept waiting for a Miles Kelly or a Denver Jones or a Chad Baker-Mazara to pop, and it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. So they're going to need one of those other guys to step up. I think Johni Broome's going to get his 15 to 25 points, depending on how often they go to him and the foul situations and his availability and all that. But to me, it's okay. Who on the perimeter steps up? That to me is the biggest question.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead, Brandon. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that Miles Kelly's the guy that I keep thinking about with this game, just because in their first matchup, he had 22 points in that game. And I think that he had more open looks than he converted. And so if he's going to keep getting those open looks, I wouldn't expect him to not convert those in a game like this, in a situation like this. So he's the guy that I kind of look at. And yeah, Tahaad Pettiford, I feel like he's been.
I think it's Tahaad, Brandon. I think if Auburn,
he's been going.
He's been nails, and he didn't really have that much larger of a role against Michigan State. I mean, nobody outside of Johni did. You saw guys try to volume it up a little bit. They just didn't fall. But to me, I think if Auburn wins this game, it's because Tahaad pops off. I think he's the guy that needs to step up next to Johni Broome.
And we've seen him do that all season long, Zach. Let's go all the way back to that game in the Toyota Center in Houston. That was the plane fight game where,
Yeah, right.
Good grief, how far we've come. Anyway, well, I don't want to get derailed by that, but legitimately, from that moment, I was like, Tahaad Pettiford is an absolute dog, right? Good luck. But the thing is, as we look at then how does Florida stop it? The Florida stable of guards is so deep to be able to do that defensively, as is the front court. And Brandon, that's where I want to go. I remember a lot during the Florida Texas Tech game last week. Darion Williams from Texas Tech, obviously a lot smaller than the front court of Condon and Houck and stuff, but they kept ISOing him and he went bully ball and had his way. Johni's got inches and weight on Darion Williams. Do you see Auburn potentially being able to do the same, or how does the front court stop that?
If they don't at least try to do the same, then that's an absolute failure. I mean, with the pick and roll, Texas Tech was having success whenever they wanted to. They were posting up, and it was effective every single time. Alex Condon's plain and simple just needs to step up. He played great against Auburn the first time they played. I mean, Johni Broome had an off night with that game, or off day because it was a day game. But I mean, Alex Condon needs to step up. Ruben Chinelu needs to step up. Defensive rebounding needs to step up. I mean, this is a game where what Auburn's going to do because they're Auburn. They're going to take that approach. They're going to go with that game plan that they're always going to go with, especially against a team like Florida. And it's just about Florida. Can you actually answer? Because right now, points in the paint, I mean, they've been horrible protecting the paint. They've been horrible getting defensive rebounds for this whole tournament. They've gotten worse as the year's gone on. And it's going to give me an aneurysm at that point. But I feel like Alex Condon, Ruben Chinelu, I don't expect Thomas Huck to go out there and play good post defense. He's there, but he's 6'9", and that feels a little generous. And so I don't expect him to go out there and protect the paint the same way I would expect Alex Condon or Ruben Chinelu to do so.
How you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think Auburn's trio around the basket is a big part of all of this, as you've mentioned, especially with how Florida played against UConn and Texas Tech just most recently. But I mean, with Johni, sure, that's a big part of this, but Dylan Cardwell has had an incredible NCAA tournament, both from a production standpoint and an impact standpoint. And then Chaney Johnson as well, as far as, he's able to score. He's a problem that you've got to prepare for. I'm curious to see how much they go to those guys and just kind of the chemistry that they have around the basket as far as being able to move the basketball and, create shots and opportunities for each other. I think that is a matchup here that favors Auburn.
That Dylan Cardwell was in serious foul trouble last time that Florida and Auburn played. So that was the one reason he wasn't a huge factor.
That's a great point, Brent.
He played 20 minutes because of foul trouble. Chad Baker-Mazara had a few fouls, which is, I mean, everybody expects that at this point.
Did y'all see somebody tweeted out, hey, nobody's talking about it, but Chad Baker-Mazara has been on his best behavior, and he retweeted it Wednesday morning. I think that's hilarious.
It's because his hip is all acting up and he's like an old man,
Yeah. All those Alabama players just kept elbowing him, and everybody just seemed okay with it. So
that was insane.
ZB, one more question since we're still talking Auburn's offense. Obviously, Johni Broome is typically their leading scorer, and we're expecting him to come into this game healthy. Do you expect that to be the case where he is the player who leads Auburn in scoring? Do you think maybe Tahaad Pettiford ends up being the guy, or could it be somebody like Miles Kelly? Could he come out and have a big game and ultimately be the guy who leads the Tigers in scoring in this one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Johni Broome needs to be effective. He needs to be in double digits. I think he needs at least 15. But I tell you what, if Johni Broome gets at least 15 to 20 and he doesn't lead Auburn in scoring, I think Auburn wins.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, folks, we're going to flip this thing. We're going to flip it. We're going to talk about Florida's offense. How on the heck you try to slow down Walter Clayton, if you can slow down Walter Clayton, what we expect Auburn
already
to do.
Dreading it.
Yeah.
Already. I've been dreading it all week.
I think you're not alone in dreading how that's
dread from it, run from it. Walter Clayton Jr. is coming all the same. Don't worry.
Inevitable.
He is inevitable. We're going to talk about that coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, if you're like Isaac and I, we have been staying up late all month long here covering the NCAA tournament. If you're feeling that lost sleep, then 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through this month. Whether you're staying up late watching the tournament with us, joining us on those lives late night, we appreciate all of you. Maybe you're squeezing in an extra round of golf after work, or you're just trying to keep up with your busy day. Either way, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Like I said, Isaac and I I don't think we've gotten more than 5 hours of sleep. At least I can speak for myself. I don't think I've gotten 5 hours of sleep in the last month or so. And 5 Hour Energy is the jolt that I need to help me keep me going into the next day, whether I'm at a game, whether I'm traveling to Dallas for the Bracket Breakdown shows. 5 Hour Energy is easy to grab, helps keep me feeling refreshed. So folks, head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from. They got watermelon, they got blue raspberry. I know Brandon's got a flavor that he's been trying out right now.
What flavor is that, Brandon? What flavor is that?
That title twist was actually pretty good. First time
Was
I ever
it really?
had it. First time I ever had it.
Describe title twist to us, just real quick.
Have you ever tasted heaven?
I actually have. It was the wildest thing.
That's what title twist is flavored like.
How about that? I got to get some title twist. Holy
I need
cow.
title twist.
Well, folks, if you need one now, you can grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're literally everywhere. You find them anywhere you go to get some groceries. So stock up today and stay energized. All right, folks, still here with Isaac Shade, still here with Brandon Olson, the host of Locked On Gators, as well as Zach Blackerby, the host of Locked On Auburn, getting you ready for not only a rematch between two SEC foes, but a Final Four matchup. We know we're going to get at least one team from this dominant conference in the national championship. I say at least, we're going to get one team from the SEC in the national championship.
What scenario
conference realignment has gotten out of control? You never know.
Going to be one. So let's kind of flip the script a little bit here like we were doing earlier. We're going to talk about Florida's offense. Brandon, we'll start with you. What do you expect Florida to do? Again, kind of similar question. Are you expecting anything different? These two teams have played each other. Obviously, Florida won that matchup. So is it kind of just going to be par for the course? We're going to try to do what we did last time and adjust to Auburn, or do you expect them to do anything maybe a little bit different in this one?
I expect them to stick relatively par for the course. You know, this is what got you here, right? Playing this brand of basketball has gotten here. I would hope that we see them play kind of similar to how they've tried to play lately, where I do feel like they've gone, hey, you know, maybe we'll kill the pace a little bit, just to protect the ball more, because they were turning the ball over a ton throughout a lot of this tournament. But I do expect them to say, hey, Walter Clayton Jr., like this is your time. Go at it. I know that there's a lot of Florida Gators fans that all of a sudden are like, oh, just start Thomas Houck. Don't do that. He should have been the 6th man of the year. Don't change things that are working. You're a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. You're in the Final Four. Don't change anything that you don't need to change there. Walter Clayton Jr., he's the driving force of this offense. He's as cold-blooded as they come. And I mean, he's showing up in a huge moment. He's showing up, and I would expect him to try to take the lead again here, and maybe try to attack the paint a little bit more off the dribble. I feel like he's had success getting there. I sent a message about 2 games ago where he was getting some whistles that he probably shouldn't have gotten, and I was like, okay, he's getting the superstar whistle. Like he's getting the superstar whistle, so he should keep trying to do that. And Auburn's bigs get them in foul trouble if possible.
Zach,
yeah,
I've been trying to process.
Go ahead.
I've been trying to process something all week about this, and I've been waiting to ask you, so I'm not going to let you interrupt me.
Please go ahead.
Like,
Go ahead.
obviously, Denver Jones is the best perimeter defender for this team. He's 6'4" to Walter Clayton 6'3". Have you seen Bruce Pearl do a thing where he might, even though Denver's the best perimeter defender, he might use the superior size and length of Miles Kelly or CBM at 6'6" or 6'7" with one of those guys on Walter Clayton instead of Denver Jones?
Yeah, Auburn switches so well defensively, especially like 1 through 3 with the 3 guys that you just mentioned. They switch so well. To me, what I was about to say is, like, everybody's talking about Johni Broome and his health, that being main, bullet point in all this, and the relationship between the head coaches and all that. The most important thing in this game, I think, is Walter Clayton versus Denver Jones. I think that's going to decide who wins this basketball game. And I think down the stretch, Denver Jones defensively has been phenomenal. He's been incredible. And in some cases, he's really helped Auburn stay in it, especially when Auburn has gone through some of these stretches where the offense hasn't been able to keep up with the defense. To me, I think you put Denver Jones on him. And if you have to switch to a CBM or a Miles Kelly, I think that's totally okay. But Denver Jones's perimeter defense is a big part of what got you here. I mean, talking about like with what Brandon said, like duo got you here. Putting Denver Jones on the best perimeter scorer is a big part of what got Auburn to being the number 1 overall seed and to being in the Final Four. So, like, I understand the size matchup, and CBM and Miles are going to have reps against him for sure. But I think you start the possession with Denver.
I was going to ask because Andy, Isaac, you guys are way more basketball knowledgeable than myself and Zach. Is there any reason or logic behind saying, hey, let's not put our best perimeter defender on Walter Clayton Jr. because we know that Florida's going to go with their dribble handoffs and their screens, and we switch so frequently? So could we not set it up to go, hey, well, based on those screens, eventually Denver would get on to Walt instead of starting on him and then switching off when Florida inevitably runs their action?
Go ahead, Andy.
I think that's kind of part of the chess match in some ways. Like, yeah, I think if Florida found, and you see that more in the NBA, I think NBA is much more matchup specific, where they're just like, all we're caring about is getting enough screens, enough dribble handoff actions where we have an advantage. And college coaches don't do that as often. I don't know if that's going to change. It seems like in some ways we are already seeing teams do that. But I would think if Auburn found themselves in a situation where every possession started with Denver Jones on Walter Clayton Jr. and within the first 5 to 8 seconds, there was a switch and somebody who was not as good of a defender was guarding Walter Clayton, that, yeah, maybe they would start to try to make a change there. And anything you can do to disrupt Florida. So if you decide to put, Miles Kelly on Walter Clayton immediately, knowing that, hey, if they do any screens, we'll switch and we'll get Denver on him, then Florida has to adjust and maybe they just start going one-on-one, or they start, trying to attack differently. But at least if you're Auburn at that point, you've made Florida do something different. You're throwing them out of their routine a little bit. So yes, I think there is an answer, or there is a situation where maybe that happens, but it's a risk because, again, trying to get Florida out of their rhythm is one thing, but disrupting how you typically play defense or starting out defensively with maybe more of a mismatch is a pretty significant risk in a Final Four game. So I do think that is an interesting kind of element to this game that could come into play. And I think too, even, looking at Florida and comparing it to the previous game, Elijah Martin didn't play in that game, and he's one of the best guards for the Florida team outside of Walter Clayton. So Auburn didn't have to deal with defending Martin and Walter Clayton, and now they do. And I think that is going to create a different dynamic that I'm wondering if Zach or Brandon, if either of you want to kind of talk about what Martin being in the mix might mean for this game.
Yeah, I think that he's just such a, I feel like he's just a spark for this offense. He makes the transition plays. He's, in my opinion, the best perimeter defender on Florida, even though Florida doesn't typically, match up, our best perimeter defender against your best ball handler. But I think that he adds a lot to the offense. He's played fairly well. Didn't shoot too well against Texas Tech. He had some open threes and missed them. But prior to that, I mean, you lose the UConn game without him. We're not even having this conversation without Elijah Martin, because Florida loses the UConn game. He had 12 of their points in the first half, and he was averaging 14. So he's been a driving factor here. He provides some juice. 3-ball, again, wasn't hitting against Texas Tech, but every other game in this tournament, he's been connecting on his threes, his free throws. He's been playing lights out, and he's the only guy on Florida's roster that has that Final Four experience already from when he was with FAU.
And I mean, both of these rosters, I mean, we just keep listing guys, and you could do it for both of these teams. I mean, both of these teams offensively and defensively, for that matter, they can throw so much at you. And so to me, it's like down the stretch, okay, who's going to make these big moments?
Yeah.
Who's going to be able to capitalize? And so far, I mean, Florida has escaped, a potential upset twice in this tournament against UConn, and then what they did against Texas Tech was unbelievable. Auburn hasn't been in that situation yet with this tournament. Like, they were down big against Michigan early in the second half, and they went on an incredible 20-2 run or whatever. But it wasn't a similar situation, and at that point it was all Auburn. So in the final few minutes of a tournament game, this team hasn't felt that yet, and so I got a feeling they are going to feel that in this one, because I think it's going to be close regardless of who it is. I think it's going to be close with a few minutes left, and I think one of the two teams is going to pull away in the final few minutes, and it may not look as close as the game actually was. That's just my prediction on this, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how does Auburn respond in that situation, because they haven't really done it yet outside of that Michigan thing, but that happened with 12 minutes left to go in the game.
And I feel like always in these high profile games, it's easy to focus on the Walter Claytons and the Johni Broomes, and we forget that we're talking so much about how do you defend Walter Clayton that you forget that you guys talked about Elijah Martin, and then we've got Will Richard, and that backcourt is so insane that any of those three dudes could do this for Florida. And so you're going to need all three of the Auburn backcourt defenders, and along with Tahaad when he comes in, and everyone to pitch in on that. It just, so as you just said, Zach, so many fun matchups all over the place. I cannot wait to see how this happens. Can Condon pull Dylan Cardwell, pull Chaney Johnson out to the perimeter and force them to defend in space, all this great stuff. So BO, I want to ask you the same question that Andy asked Zach. In your opinion, who leads Florida in scoring in this basketball game?
I mean, it's Walt. It's Walt. There's just, if it's not Walt, I'll be floored. It's just, he's going to get, pure volume wise, he should be the leading scorer. He's going to get more looks than anybody else. No matter what you do, he's going to get his looks. Similar to the Cooper Flag, Johni Broome of do you just let him get his? I feel like you have to with Walt, because he's going to get his shots up. He's going to get his looks. They're going to draw things up to get him involved. And I am interested to see what happens, though, because Texas Tech, he wasn't as involved in the offense in the first half, partially because he was playing his tail off defensively in the first half. And so I would assume that he has to do the same thing against Auburn. And I'm curious if making him work more on defense is the best way to try to slow him down on offense.
Yeah. I love it. Well, we got to get to, we're talking about these leading scores. We got to get to X factors. Who's an X factor player? What's some X factor stats that could determine this game? And we got to make game predictions. And I got to ask Zach, how come Auburn can't have a previous Final Four participant like the other three teams in this field? That's Bush League from Bruce Pearl's boys. We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends at FanDuel. Man, March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even which team is going to cut down the nets Monday night. Will it be one of these guys, or will it be Houston, or maybe the Fightin' Dukies? That's kind of funny to call them that. We're down to the final four teams remaining, and there's plenty of exciting lines to bet on. In this game, Florida, 2.5-point favorite over Auburn. The line in the Duke-Houston game has just grown a little bit. Now Duke is favored by 5.5. Who you guys got in that one?
Duke.
Duke. Andy,
I love Houston, but I'm taking Duke.
All right, same. We love you. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and the great news is that when you win, you can get paid instantly, no waiting around for those funds to come in. So check it all out at FanDuel.com for your shot at $200 in bonus bets and get in on all the college hoops action all tournament long. Zach, I'm pretty disappointed in the fight in Bruce Pearls, and here's why. Brandon talked about it. We got Elijah Martin on the Gators, who has previous Final Four experience with FAU. For Houston, we've got LJ Cryer, who has previous Final Four experience at Baylor. And for Duke, we've got Mason Gillis, who was in the national championship game last year with Purdue. come on, what's up with Auburn? Why can't they get on this train?
I know it. All this Auburn team has done is have one of the best regular seasons ever, and win the strongest conference ever. But yeah, sorry, we fell short in that category.
Well,
Sorry,
I think that's why you're 2.5 point underdogs in this thing. All right, Brandon, let's start with you. In your opinion, who is the biggest X factor player in this game?
I think it's Alex Condon. He's the guy that I've been very critical of lately. I've been very unhappy with his play during this tournament since the start of the SEC tournament. I think he's been just not being himself, and he sprained his ankle about a month and a half ago. And maybe my theory is that playing in tournament situations where he doesn't have as many days off in between consistently. The SEC tournament, they played 3 days in a row. March Madness, they've played 2 games, get 4 days off, played 2 games, and that kind of, maybe that's adding a little bit to the fatigue. He also banged it up again against Maryland, but I need him to be able to protect the paint the way that he did for much of the year. I need him to work on the glass the way he did for much of the year. And again, against Auburn, the first time, he was a big factor in slowing down Johni Broome. And Johni Broome, similar to Walter Clayton, is going to get his looks. Whether or not he's open, he's going to get his looks. Like, he's going to take his shots. And I think for Florida, Alex Condon has to be the guy that disrupts that. I think he's got the length and the size to actually compete down low against Johni. And he's got to be on his A game, which he hasn't been in about 8 games now.
My biggest takeaway from that whole thing is that you're a tournament guy. I'm a tournament guy. Andy, Zach, how do you pronounce that word?
Tournament.
Yeah.
It's a Northeast thing, BO. Okay.
Yeah, well,
there we go.
I almost did something to the camera that would have gotten me in trouble, but just know that
I'm so proud of you.
Like, what restraint? You sir, you and Chad Baker-Mazara, just growing up, we love to see it.
We show up during the tournament.
Zach, who's your X factor for this one, man?
I guess I'll go Chad Baker-Mazara.
Yeah, if he doesn't elbow drop anybody, then maybe they got
Hey, he hasn't been ejected in a few weeks now, up to this point. He's a guy who's capable of erupting offensively and scoring in waves, and it hasn't really happened in the tournament, and it hasn't deterred him from taking shots and attacking the basket. Auburn needs those to fall. Auburn needs some offensive production from Chad Baker-Mazara. You can't take him off the floor because he's such a good defender. He's so long, and he can really guard 1 through 4 if you really need him to. And you can say that about a lot of guys on Auburn's team. So I'll go with Chad Baker-Mazara just because he's been kind of quiet, and in some cases that's a good thing. You'll take some of that, with Chad Baker-Mazara flying under the radar. But when Auburn was their best this season, it was when Chad Baker-Mazara was scoring. And so they need a good game from Chad.
How's his hip? Any update on that?
I mean, he's playing plenty of minutes. He seems fine.
Yeah.
So,
B, I'll go back to you on
drops the leg on. We'll see how it is. Then.
That's right.
B, I'll go back to you for another X factor question, more of a stat thing. Is there a specific thing you're looking for, whether it's rebounding, 3-point shooting, et cetera, that you think Florida needs to do? Like, what is the most important kind of factor for them in terms of getting a W here?
It's defensive rebounding. I mean, you look at, and I will throw some stats at you for a second, where during the season, they allowed an offensive rebounding percentage of 26.16%. Then during conference play, so regular season, 27.7%. And then the SEC tournament, Florida allowed an offensive rebounding percent of 28%. And in March Madness, they've allowed an offensive rebounding percentage of 31.5%. And so they've gotten worse as the year has gone on. And Auburn's a team that they're going to hammer the offensive glass. And so Florida's had the size advantage in a lot of these games. And so it's not about that. It's just you have to put in the effort. And outside of Thomas Houck, I've been disappointed with some of the effort we've seen on the defensive.
Yeah. Glass. So is Auburn able to capitalize on that? And I think that's there's 2 ways to that. One, they get it under and they draw a foul, and they haven't been great at shooting free throws down the stretch, even going into the regular season. So what does Auburn do in that situation? Or when they get it, do they kick it back out with a potential, second chance point opportunity there from a Miles Kelly or a Chad Baker-Mazara shooting it from deep? Like, do they capitalize on those? And it's just been very hot or cold with his team. And so can they capitalize on all that?
Yes, then you know you
All right, I'm done. I think I'm done. I think the show's over.
Katie's awesome, man. What are you talking about?
What her singing is the issue.
I'll lay out then. Zach, you got an X Factor stat, or was that yours?
No, I don't have one. I did not come prepared for that. My bad.
I would like to say that is just so rude from Zach to insult the Grammy snub for Please Come Back Leaky Black. That is incredible that you
I was thinking about that the other day, actually.
You know
that
what?
was incredible.
I just told Andy the other day, I'm actually working on a transfer portal song right now that is basically Wake Me Up When September Ends, but it's called When the Portal Ends. It's going to be a banger. I'm just telling you.
Another Grammy.
Wake us up when it starts, because we're still playing games here. So, we're not doing too much there.
Yeah.
Well, not true for the Zags or for the Tar Heels. That's why Andy and I are doing what we're doing. All right, guys, this game tips 6:09 p.m. Eastern time. That's a guarantee because we ain't got no other game we're waiting on before it. It's a nice round number there, 6:09. You know that Raf is going to be right on there with Iron Eagle. It's going to be great on CBS. Florida favored at our friends at FanDuel by 2.5 points. How's this going?
Florida's covering. Thanks.
I would say if you're betting on Auburn, don't bet on Auburn plus 2.5. I would take the money line, because I think whoever wins this game, I think they win it definitively. I don't think this is a 1 or a 2 point game. I think whoever wins this, like they win it in the last 5 or 6 minutes of the game. What we've seen from Florida in the tournament down the stretch, UConn and Texas Tech, they didn't have the horses for the full 40 minutes. I think Auburn does, and I think Auburn wins the last few minutes of the game, and I think they win by a few possessions.
Didn't have the horses when Florida didn't have Elijah Martin, but okay.
It's fine. That's fine.
Nor Handlockton, right?
I think it's great how important a game that 2 months ago, like I'm glad that means so much to you.
It's the only time we have the head-to-head here. That's it.
Great. Sadly,
excuse me for using the context available. Thanks.
Yeah.
Folks, that's going to wrap it up for us today. I love the debate. I love the conversation. I'm really excited for this game. I think it's going to be incredibly fun. I'm obviously excited for Duke Houston too, but I think that this game is going to be.
Who did y'all pick? Are we the only ones picking?
Rod, you want to hear our picks? Isaac, who's your pick? Go first.
I got Auburn straight up. Straight up for Auburn. Sorry, B.O.
No, we're not friends anymore.
This is what I say. I cheer for my bracket. Auburn is my champion in my bracket. I'm just doing what my bracket tells me to.
Which is hilarious because I earlier said Duke, even though my bracket says Houston. So I guess I'm going against my bracket,
you're unfaithful to your bracket.
Well, I guess I'm going to continue that trend because in my bracket, I had Houston playing Florida. So I guess I'll also go with Auburn. Go with Auburn.
How does it feel?
I'm surprised.
How does it feel knowing that you're all going to be wrong?
That did not go how I was expecting it to. That's great.
Me neither, awesome. Zach. I thought we were friends here, but I guess not. All right.
Bio's never coming on the show again.
Nope.
He's done with us.
Never.
You won't need him for a national championship preview, so that's fine.
Folks, thank you so much for making the show your first listen or your first watch of the day. We appreciate every single one of you out there checking out the Locked On College Basketball Show. Those of you who checked out the Amazon Fire TV bracket breakdowns as well, very much appreciate that. We got a few more of those coming your way. We got more shows coming up this week as well as we get ready for these Final Four games on Saturday and, of course, the National Championship on Monday evening. Thanks again, folks. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Go Gators, go Tigers. And until next time, peace out.